I think we can already start. So welcome everyone to another amazing webinar that we're going to be today with special guests today. It's going to be really interesting. At the same time, I think it's going to be funny with some of the cases that we're going to present today. Today is going to be all about security, efficiency for your Airbnb properties or any property that you will be handling. So I'm Joan. I'm going to be the moderator today. I'm the CRO for Hostify, working already for a while with the short-term industry, not just short-term industry, as well as hospitality. And today we have special guests today with us, Arthur, Alondra, and Jessica. So I'm just going to let them introduce themselves one by one. So we can start with Arthur.
Hey everyone, my name is Arthur Kolker. I'm the founder and CEO of Stayfi. And Stayfi is a Wi-Fi marketing solution that helps you collect data from every guest in your property and market to them with email and text. And super excited to join everyone here today to talk about how we can also help on the security and property protection side.
Amazing. Thank you, Arthur. We can continue with Alondra.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alondra, and I am the Partnerships Manager here at Minut. For those of you that don't know Minut, we offer a smart sensor that monitors noise, temperature, humidity, as well as a few other functions that we might get into. But yeah, we're happy to be here. Thanks so much for having us, and we're excited to hear about some interesting stories today.
Thank you, Alondra. And finally, Jessica.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Jessica. I'm the Partner Account Manager at RemoteLock. RemoteLock is universal access control software that is hardware agnostic, and we integrate with other business tools to give end users ultimate choice and flexibility when it comes to how they manage access to their property. Excited to be here and ready to jump in.
Thank you, Jessica. So as you can see, we are well covered today with many different functionalities, many different features from our partners that they will cover all the aspects that we are talking about, all about security and efficiency. So for the agenda today, we have some real cases. Some of them you will find them a bit crazy. Some of them you will be on your feet, no? You'll be living through these experiences. Then we'll show you some of the guest behaviors, how to understand them. Some of the solutions that we can provide, all of us, in order to have a better solution or how to handle these situations. Some best practices, some tips that we can optimize. And finally, some tips as well, or how to handle and stream all your operations to maximize your efficiency regarding these situations. So we'll finalize with some Q&A, and on the top of that, during the webinar, I will be asking some questions that will be popping up. So I will appreciate if all of you can give some answers, some insight about these interactions that will be popping up, okay? Before we start with everything, I would like to point out this statistic. It's quite interesting and is a big issue, no? And for everyone, where property security, more than 50% of the managers have suffered property damage, and 47 have been victims of theft. No, this is a huge number from all the short-term rentals that they are being handled in the world. And here I couldn't think of better professionals to give you some insights on some tools and benefits that you will get out of the technology that we can provide all together. Yeah. So let's start talking a little bit, as I mentioned, about the guest behavior to understand better what are the main topics or what are the behaviors that they're doing in order to damage or how they cause these kind of situations in the property. No. And 40% of we were mentioning of the guests that they cause damage on the property vacational rental, as we mentioned before. 23% of them, they believe the damage was intentional, and they report spending more than 500 on average on damages. So that's a huge amount and a big chunk of your revenue that it can be saved. No, 50% of them they voted to the families as the best client, to say it somehow, the one that behaves better or they treat better the property. They don't cause these kind of situations. And finally, they voted that the young people are the worst. Somehow, they don't care. They don't take care of the property. They do parties. They do noise. They bother the neighbors. And we can see of all the data statistics that we have here, as the smoking, one of the worst situations that it can damage the smell. All the money that you have to spend in order to clean it, to maybe it burn some of the sheets or any damage, smell. It's quite bad, no? It's a situation that we would like to avoid, and here I'm pretty sure Alondra will have a lot to say. And we can see at the end like unauthorized use of equipment of appliances, like not taking care of the installations of the property, As the property manages battles to the supernatural predictive forces, we can see the inefficiency, So here we will throw like a quick questions that actually, guys, you can help me here to answer. Will you survive the early challenges of this property odyssey? What do you think? Any of you guys, Jessica, Alondra, or Arthur?
You go ahead, Arthur.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about some different cases, but obviously, our role here is to figure out the right tools that you can put in place and right processes, right? Because you can have the tools, but then you may not know what to do with the information. I think that's where it also gets the most interesting. Of you may have smart sensors or locks in place, but how do you actually handle when you hear something is not quite right in your properties?
Yeah,
Amazing.
exactly. More and certainly, one of the challenges in starting is kind of wrapping your head around what the possible scenarios are. So this is why it's such a great webinar topic, just to give an idea of, of certainly some of the worst case scenarios, but some of the potential things that you might come against, and ways to prepare for those situations. So it's great to be able to focus on those today.
Amazing. Thank you, guys, for the feedback. As you can see, I already started some of the interactions on how many properties do you handle. So I will be asking as well some of the other questions related to all the statistics and the numbers that we've been seeing. So let me end this interaction and we can start with the next one while I'm moving on to the next slide. So real cases, as we mentioned, we're going to mention some funny, some of them they wouldn't be funny for the host that has to go through them. So I'm gonna start with Jessica about the first case. So I will pass it to you, Jessica.
Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. So for real case number 1, we have a little bit of a New Year's celebration disaster. So Lisa Anderson booked Alex Jones's apartment for their New Year's celebrations, but it very quickly took a turn for the worse when 100-some attendees showed up and caused a lot of damage across the board. So Alex was unfortunately left with a pretty hefty sum for cleaning, furniture replacement, and structural repair. How could Alex have avoided this situation? Well, for starters, you definitely want to make sure that the person you're letting stay at your property is actually who they say they are. So guest screening capabilities are crucial. There's, a lot of PMSs out there that have these capabilities built in, and then as well as a lot of third-party platforms that you can tie into your current business tools. Nonetheless, it's important to screen the guests and capture all of that necessary information. Most of the time, property managers or, the property owners don't live in the same vicinity as where the property they're managing is located. So it's definitely important to have security measures in place that allow you to act quickly and remotely. So some of these security measures are, cameras or noise and occupancy sensors and smart locks. I'm here with RemoteLock, so I'm going to hone into the smart lock piece of the solution. So with a smart lock, with a smart access control software, like RemoteLock, for example, each guest is assigned a unique time-bound PIN that only works for the duration of their stay. So not only are you going to know which access guest the code that is being entered into the door belongs to, but you can also set notifications so that you're alerted of every single time that the code is used. So as a property manager, if I'm getting 100-some notifications of access, maybe that'll trigger something in my mind of whether or not that's normal. And then, I can remediate from there, take some next actions. And most importantly, the fact that this can be done from anywhere. So even if the property manager is in a different time zone on the other side of the world, they will still have complete control over their property's access. So yeah, it's definitely important to hone in on the security side of the solution here. Alondra or Arthur, do you have anything to add for this first real case?
Yeah, we had a customer with a very similar situation, except the guests actually broke in to host a party. But not everyone else there actually knew that they broke in, right? So they had told their friends they were renting the place, and all of their friends happened to log into the Wi-Fi, and we had captured that information. So our property manager actually took all of that data to the police to track down who planned and broke into the property. So that's like even the worst case scenario of a break-in, but we've seen crazy things like that happen, which is the worst case scenario.
Oh wow. Yeah, that sounds pretty gutsy, let's say, in the worst possible way. But certainly, at Minute we really do focus on noise monitoring. So this is certainly an area where we can help. We do provide, real-time data in terms of how loud the noise levels are, and we would send notifications both to the guest and to the host or the property manager or the homeowner, just to let them know that, hey, something is not quite right. There's a few aspects that come into play when a crowd is gathering and when a party is happening. So certainly, I say that the noise is kind of the last signal that perhaps a party is underway. But before that, as Jessica mentioned, you'd see the code being used multiple times, people coming in and out. You also see the amount of people that are being registered through a service like Stayfi increasing. So there's quite a few telltale signs that perhaps there is a party happening. And certainly it's nice to be able to count on that noise data to be able to use that should you need to submit a claim and say, this is all the data that I have to show that there was a party happening. And this is also a great tool to ensure that it doesn't happen in the future.
Indeed. All right, so let's move on to the next case, which is going to be for Arthur. This one, it's a bit crazy. So you can go ahead and explain a little bit about this one, Arthur.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely similar to the last case where we have a unauthorized party, let's say. This one happens to be over Thanksgiving, which I think highlights with New Year's and Thanksgiving particular attention around the times of year where you might see these types of events. So New Year's, Thanksgiving, spring break. I think we all have an intuition based on the location of our properties where you might want to be extra attuned to the data that you're getting through a tool like Stayfi, Minut, or RemoteLock. But here you can see we had not only damage, but because they apparently slaughtered one of the animals in the backyard, also blood damage and things like that everywhere. And neighbors complaining, which, as we know, can be a big issue, especially if you're in a community that has a lot of sensitivity around short-term rentals, right? Maybe one that isn't traditionally a vacation rental market. That makes, urgency behind why you'd want to be, why you want to put these tools in place so you don't run afoul of local ordinances or regulation, or potentially cause people in your community to seek out potentially damaging regulation. How to avoid the situation. I think an important one here is the seamless communication to your guests from booking to post-stay. Maybe we'll get Minut's opinion on this, but maybe you want to let guests know in advance that you have this type of technology in place and that you actually can monitor whether parties are there, as a great way to deter them or to turn away the wrong types of guests that you don't want to stay at your property, right? So I think being transparent around those solutions can be very helpful in screening out or self-selecting guests away that might be planning these types of events. Payments and deposits. Obviously, there are a lot of great tools through Hostify, as well as third-party tools, things like Superhog and others, where you can, have waivers, damage waivers in place, third-party insurance, all these different ways to protect yourself in case the worst does happen. Does anyone else want to comment on this situation?
Yeah, I think you're completely right. No, making the client know that there's gonna be this kind of security, not just for to be controlled, but also for their security, in case something happens to the house, to the property, and they are aware of the situation, so we can avoid and prevent this. And as you mentioned, and they have the tools at the end of host to automate all the communications via Hostify, via Minut, via Stayfi, via RemoteLock, to secure payments, to provide data that they need, passports or any information that is crucial for the host, and to make it easy for the guest to provide it.
And Arthur, you mentioned something that we think is quite essential, and that's being transparent with the technology that you're using in your rental property. Not only is it just good practice to be upfront with your guests and let them know, but it is very much a deterrent for people who are looking for that party space or for a place to host. What could have started out maybe as an innocent Thanksgiving dinner, they will know that their host is going to be on top of what's going on in that property, and maybe it's going to give them a little nudge to say, hey, I should communicate with my host. And there's nothing wrong with having a nice dinner for Thanksgiving with some friends at a rental, but certainly this sounds like a situation that got out of hand, and it certainly could have been avoided had these people known that their host was on top of what was going on in that property. So completely agree with you there. The more you're transparent with your guests, the better for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And just one more thing to add there about, just the importance of automations and having all of your systems talk to each other. If you have access control system integrated with your property management software, you can set it so that the code isn't even sent to the lock until the reservation is, fully accepted, or, the payment's fully through. So even if they do show up unannounced, the code's not in the door and they can't get through. They won't get in.
Yeah. Yep. All right, let's jump to the next case. I think this one is a bit more normal than the poor turkey being the last day for him. Here we have more, I will say, a bit common, which it shouldn't as well. And a double book property, which obviously can be voided with technology like PMS, like us, integrating all the different platforms. And the guests just decided, to break the window or break the door and try to get in. So this will be really hard situation, for both and for the host, like the guest, maybe it's already in and that he booked the property the first, and then the second one he got frustrated and he didn't have any other place. Maybe he arrived really late at night and he decided there is no other solution to break in to stay at the night. So here it's a bit of the case that it can be avoided from a bit of technology from all of the ones that we are participating here today, with a technology that obviously like RemoteLock can provide it in order to secure the access of the client. As well from Minut, if we hear the noise, like the client is trying to break it in and everything. And of course, automating all the kind of communications, integrations, how to speak with different platforms. So we avoid any double booking, we avoid any kind of the client or even you, like if you receive a double booking or like somebody trying to inquire about the property, to receive notifications in your own app device in order to prevent the guy breaking in. And here I'm guessing RemoteLock can provide more experience of accesses to the properties and how to control the different aspects of the check-in for the clients. So let's move on to the last case, which is going to be for Alondra.
Sure. So we're now looking at case number 4, which is the house that actually burned down. So the house went up in flames. A vacationing family faced a nightmare scenario when a fire broke out at their Airbnb during a cozy dinner. As the fire ignited, the panic ensued and they left behind both memories and keys. The fire brigade, delayed by the absence of quick access, had to break in through the window, causing additional damage and cost. The result, the flat turned into ashes, a smoldering mess with toasted furniture, scorched walls, and some irreplaceable losses. The total cost of this damage was more than $5,700, including cleaning, furniture replacement, and structural repair. So yes, that is an unfortunate situation for many reasons. It sounds as though luckily they were able to get out without any damage to the family. But certainly, you know, this is something that does happen every now and then, and in part it's due to lack of information around fire safety. If we go to the next slide, we can quickly go through the next. Oh, sorry about that. Thank you. Into the details on how to avoid the situation. So the first is empowering the guests with knowledge on security. Anyone who's getting into short-term rentals, you know, I think we'd all highly recommend getting into like fire safety training courses. In fact, there's one particular partner that does a great job called Breezeway. They do fire safety training, and they really focus on things that, you know, might not necessarily seem as potential hazards for fire. But there are, of course, other ways. So like using automatic thermostats to control temperature and avoid dangerous heaters, acquiring systems that provide real-time alerts in case of any incident. So for example, the Minut sensor, we do monitor temperature, and we've had situations where our clients have used that temperature monitoring feature to be able to tell if things happen, like if someone left the heat on, if someone turned off the heat and maybe they're at a risk of potentially frozen pipes. As many of us through Europe and the US have seen lately, you know, temperatures have been kind of all over the place, certainly quite cold. And we've had quite a few people who have reached out saying, thanks so much for this feature. It's helped me to avoid a major situation in my short-term rental. And then prepare emergency preparedness plans and keep updated emergency information. Depending on where your short-term rental is located, this might actually be a requirement. So some locations do require that you have like an emergency preparedness plan or like a fire escape route listed on a door, for example, or printed out. So it's always worth checking with like an association locally to find out what those regulations require and how to make sure that you are adhering to those regulations. And even if it's not a regulation, it's never a bad idea to make sure that you have things like smoke detectors to avoid a possible fire, security alarm systems, smart thermostats, and then certainly to streamline the guest access through smart lock systems. This is always important. Obviously, the fire brigade wouldn't have had to break in if they had access to that door. We also recommend acquiring a damage waiver solution and make all of your guests sign a rental agreement. And then lastly, again, have emergency guidelines. So protocols, procedures, what should people do if there is a fire? Keep in mind, a lot of your guests are from out of town. They're not familiar with the numbers. They're not familiar with how, you know, who to call if there is an emergency situation. So it's always nice to have that, whether it's in a guidebook or, as mentioned, you know, if you want to print it out and put it on the back of that front door so that they know how to act quickly in the case of an emergency.
Really good insight, and indeed everything really right. At the end, security should be one of the first measures that any host should be taking care, not just for the property, but as you mentioned as well, for the security of the guests staying in the property. You know?
Yeah, and I just wanted to mention too, a lot of people do have smoke detectors, for example. I know in the US they're quite common, but it's certainly nice to test them. In fact, imperative to test them on a regular basis. But one of the features of Minut too is that it does have alarm recognition. So if it hears a smoke detector going off, it will send you a notification to let you know that there is an alarm going off in your home. So certainly if you don't have a smoke detector that's going to send you a notification if you're outside of that property, it's another feature that's quite nice to have.
Indeed. Indeed.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, I think this is the smoke detector and carbon monoxide detector is a really common one. And I know from personal experience recently staying in Mexico, I was in a property that had no smoke detector or carbon monoxide detector. And that was feedback that I gave to that property manager. So definitely something that if you ever notice out in the wild that you should alert folks to, because they had thought they placed them there when they in fact had not.
And one more thing to add here. I mean, it's kind of maybe unlikely that an emergency crew would wait for that code if there is a really, dire situation they need to get in. But let's just say they are waiting and they're locked at the front of the community. You can set like the gate to be common to your front door so that they have the same code. So when you do share it with the emergency services, or really anyone, any guest, anyone who needs access, it's just one code to share, one code to remember, and keeps it simple.
Perfect. So let's move on to the next topic. While Arthur will be taking over, I'm just gonna pop up a question. I know that the interactions weren't like really matching with the answers. Some of you guys raised it up. You were right. I just fixed it, and I was just to ask now if you have experienced any of these situations. It doesn't have to be same, but maybe similar, and we will ask more later about it. So I'll pass it to you, Arthur.
I already see one yes, so clearly, two yeses. So I mean, these things are not uncommon. Let me go to the next slide here. So this is common guest behavior that prompts, why people should consider advanced security measures. Average damage 553. For some of the examples, I was surprised it wasn't actually higher given the description, right? So obviously, depending on the property, the range can be very, very, large. Hosts spend an average of $1,400 on security features for their vacation rental properties. Obviously, some of these are larger one-time expenses, whether they're exterior camera solutions. Some of that hardware can be a little pricey, but definitely worth the investment. And it may be something that if you are a property manager, homeowners may cover costs of those, depending on how your business is set up. And then the most common guest behaviors about why people will adopt these security measures. A lot of people get into the short-term rental industry and they don't think through, they think of all the upsides, but not potentially all the downsides. So definitely things we see once a bad issue takes place, then we tend to see property managers or owner operators come a little late to implementing these. So vandalism is definitely number one, property damage, theft, definitely one that we hear about a lot. Unauthorized guests, noise complaints, violation of rental rules, disturbance to neighbors, drug use, flood, fire, alcohol use, later unpaid fees. Those are all ones I know I hear about all the time. In terms of, Stayfi is not quite as oriented towards access control or noise monitoring as some of, obviously, these other solutions. We do have an occupancy alerting tool, so we will let you know when there's more individuals in the property than our book there with our integrations with PMS. So that's just one other angle to see whether there are more people than you expect, as well as through our service, you can monitor all the devices on your Wi-Fi. And in the case of squatters, which is not one that I see here, but has come up a few times, definitely more rare, actually disables people's access to the internet. So which safeguards do property managers plan to incorporate to protect their properties? This is an interesting one about security cameras, and I noticed in one of the previous slides, there are cases that I've heard of where folks have placed interior cameras in certain rooms and have not told the guests. That is definitely a big no-no, and one that can actually get you banned from OTAs like Airbnb. So, things like Minut are great because they're not recording guests, but they're just alerting you when there's high noise, or other issues without being invasive. And obviously, you want to be transparent about those monitoring solutions. And you can see here, obviously, 76% of guests would avoid rentals with indoor cameras. So if you do disclose that, you're going to get many fewer bookings. An important one here that comes up and is very important is guests finding undisclosed cameras in vacation rentals. Obviously, those are typically not placed by property managers or owners, but often other guests who stay there and place cameras, which is, we know, super creepy in vacation rentals. That is something that actually Stayfi can prevent because we only allow guest devices onto the Wi-Fi, and we don't allow things like hidden cameras onto the internet. So with a solution like Stayfi, you can prevent these worst case scenarios because, again, if a guest does find those undisclosed cameras in the vacation rental, OTAs are just going to ban you immediately. And when that happens, there's not a lot of recourse, right? So we want to prevent you getting shut out of these important channels. So preventing that is very important. And on the other right side here, these are definitely the more common ones. So security alarm systems definitely need to have, those basic things in place like fire alarms, carbon monoxide, security systems, door locks, smart access control, really important, much safer than a lockbox, right? Motion activated lights. One thing that we recommend for everybody, and I've heard this many times, is if you are managing a property, have someone try to go and check into that property at nighttime. Because you may find, your guest is American, you operate in Portugal, you're in a confusing area with winding streets, and at nighttime, people may not be able to find your property or how to access it, right? So I definitely recommend running that test trial for someone to come at nighttime and not trip on hidden steps in the dark and things like that. Smart home automation, interior cameras are definitely a no-no. So I would not recommend that, but exterior definitely. And there's a lot of cool exterior camera systems that can even count people coming in and out of the property, right? Or provide some extra layer of intelligence. And of course, you can use those for damage claims or other issues because you have a recording and evidence of what was going on in and out of your properties. Does anyone else want to add anything to this particular list here?
No, I think it's very interesting what you said and what you mentioned, no? That you need to be watching out on which kind of security you put. So obviously, security to prevent any damage. But when you say like interior cameras or all these kind of intrusive security measures, it can be a big no-no because, as you mentioned, OTAs, if they take care of that, you're gonna be banned, but forever. Like there is no way around that. You're not gonna make it around that, and there will be no way back for you for any of these platforms. At the end, it's where you get the revenue or most of the revenue out of it, so yeah, it's really really insightful. And just to share a bit of the interactions that we had from all the attendees today, it was quite interesting. 50% more or less they said didn't have any of these situations, or the other 50% they said yes. But then I can see many of you using many different technology. Actually, you marked all of the ones that we put it there: stick screening, damage, rental agreement, noise. So all of you, I can see you are aware of all of the technology that is out there and how important it is to apply it. So we can move on to the next slide, which Alondra is gonna provide some more insights from here. So I'll pass it to you, Alondra.
Sure. Now we're going to talk about cutting edge property management solutions. And sorry about that. Here we go. All right. So why do you need to secure your properties? With the rise of online booking platforms, we really think it's important that property managers prioritize their safety and well-being of their guests as well. So we suggest fortifying the properties to prevent any potential damage or incidents, safeguard certainly the property, but also the reputation and credibility. As Arthur mentioned, it's this trust, this reputation, you have to really protect it, not only on the OTAs, but think about, from the perspective of like your neighbors. It's hard enough to really gain that trust of your neighbors if you're operating a short-term rental. And if you have a situation where, there is vandalism or there is a party thrown, or there is a break-in, certainly the neighbors are going to have a hard time, being okay with that. You want to make sure that you protect not only your guests, but your reputation as a property manager or host. We know that it takes a lot to gain that trust, and certainly it's worth taking the steps to protect that. It helps to establish a sense of trust and confidence among your guest. There's also, a lot of transparency around personal data. So there's different data protection laws and privacy laws depending on the region. So again, we highly recommend that you check in with the local authorities or perhaps even like an association, which will have any updates on that information to ensure that you're adhering to the privacy protection and data protection laws as needed, and increase customer satisfaction and repeat booking. So if people feel comfortable in your properties, if they can see that you're taking and making an effort to make them feel secure and make that property, extra safe, they're going to want to repeat again and repeat that particular property, or go to you when they want to go to a particular area and ask if you have another property in that area in the future. So don't skimp on the security measures to protect your property. Not only do you want to protect your guest financial information, so through the financial processing aspect of it, make sure that you are ensuring safe and worry-free transactions. But you also want to keep an eye on the online reviews. This is going to be really going to help to build your reputation. Enhanced security really helps to contribute the positive guest experiences, leading to favorable online reviews for your properties and your business. Again, it's all about communication and being transparent. So clear communication of security policies is going to help you to ensure that they're aware of what measures are in place. So let's say, for example, the quiet hours are from 11 p.m. to 7 a.m. It's hard to abide by that if you don't have that written out somewhere. So in a guidebook, for example, or in the basic frequently asked questions, you can outline those basic items that are going to help people understand what the rules are of that property. So things like, what are the quiet hours, where to throw away trash, where to park. Those are all things that are going to be quite helpful in terms of the policies that your guests need to know. And then legal compliance and liability protection. Make sure that you have all of the security measures in order. And again, by having an emergency preparedness plan in place, it's going to really increase your guest safety and make sure that your guests feel like they are prepared should something happen while they're on vacation or renting out your property. Great. And then lastly, smart security and efficiency for your properties. Why is it important to invest in technology? Because it's going to ultimately help you save on cost. Smart devices not only enhance security, but also translate into significant long-term savings on utility bills. It's going to help you streamline your operations. It's hard enough to handle bookings. The more streamlined the process, the better. So seamless compatibility of various systems is going to make your day-to-day much easier. So helping to streamline your daily operations for maximum efficiency. This is going to be quite important. And then it's going to help you also take control. So by harnessing the power of cutting edge automation technology, it's going to help you take complete control over the security of your properties and enhance comfort and security. So you can really help to elevate your guest experience by things like intelligent lighting, sound, temperature control, just whatever you can do to create a welcoming ambiance while ensuring heightening security. And then lastly, peace of mind. So ensure remote protection for both your guests and properties by minimizing incidences and liabilities through smart systems.
Amazing, Calandra. Yeah, I think like at the end, technology is there to help, and it's a good way to automate and invest in it. So we'll save a lot of time a lot of peace of mind, which is especially what we're talking about. So I'm gonna pass it for the last topic of the day while I'm throwing one last interaction and to see how we'll be ready for you to use any of the technology that we are all proposing. So I will pass it to Jessica on how to protect yourself.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So, yeah, there's some best practices that you should follow when it comes to securing your property to avoid some of these horror stories, unless you're interested in a turkey sacrifice or a New Year's Eve party burning down your house. These are some best practices that you should maybe keep in the back of your mind. So we've already kind of mentioned this throughout the presentation, but guests want to know what security measures are in place on the property. So it's kind of a matter of whether or not they choose your property. So it's important to be transparent about those security measures, but also having those security measures in place to keep the property secure. Further on that, it's important to make sure that the information is up to date and available for your guests. So whether that is in a physical packet, you know, like Alondra mentioned, on the back of a door, or maybe it's on the the kitchen table in an Airbnb. I know I've seen that plenty of times, or like a digital guidebook in advance. Regardless, guests want to know about the property. Another way to keep your property secure is to stay on top of inspections. So whether you're having a local maintenance team do your inspections or you utilize a third-party service specifically for inspections, nonetheless, these security events can be part of a checklist to go through before each stay, after each stay, just to stay on top of your security measures across the board. And with that, it's important to stay updated to the latest security measures and technology. So again, I'm from RemoteLock, so a smart access solution in place will allow you to get notifications when your battery is running low or when your lock is offline, etc. So it's all about staying on top of your security and staying in the loop no matter where you are. Few more best practices here for securing your property before we jump into a Q&A. So it's crucial, again, for your systems to integrate to each other and communicate with each other, all about having those automations set. So for example, when a booking is made within Hostify, or within your property management system, it's automatically going to populate within your access system. So RemoteLock in this example, your access system will automatically generate a unique access code. It'll send it back to Hostify, back to your PMS, and it'll send it to the lock itself. So this way, it's really all being done automatically in the back end. And then with that PMS connected, Hostify in this example, the listing will be removed from other OTAs. So this is going to prevent double bookings, which is also a security issue that you should always keep in mind. Yep. And then with that, using a keyless entry system is a best practice. Not only is it convenient for you as the property manager, you don't need to be on the property. You don't need to be dealing with physical keys. It's also convenient for the guest. They get to just get there, go right in. They don't need to stop and wait to exchange a key, to find you in a place that they've never been, etc. So yeah, it's all about really staying on top of your security measures when you are managing your property.
Amazing, Jessica. Thank you so much. As we can see, we've been covering lots of topics. It's not just only about security or preventing any kind of incident that can happen to the guest. It's actually as well to help your operations, your day-to-day. Like Jessica said, maybe we can provide access to your maintenance team or your housekeeping without having to be in the property. Through Alondra, as she mentioned as well, prevent any kind of incident with the notifications, monitoring anything that it can happen, and of course with Arthur and Stayfi, preventing as well. Checking how many people can be in the property if it's overcrowded more than the guests that they book for. No. So we're gonna pass through the Q&A. If any of you, I can see already you've been sending some questions from James that he actually asked a long time ago. And this is gonna be for Jessica. Does a RemoteLock offer or know of a smart keypad offer garage door access? It would be great to integrate with current locks and off alarm system.
That's a really good question, James. So in terms of a direct integration with an alarm system, we don't have that at this time, but we are always working on adding additional, devices to our platform. So never say never on that front. In terms of a keypad for garage door access, yes, that is definitely a possibility. So I'm thinking maybe like our key and code 2500 series could probably be good for a garage door. But with that being said, I'd love for you to chat directly with one of our account executives who can look directly at your door and tell you what would work best for your property.
Perfect. We have another one from Maria. This is going to be for me. For Hostify, what tools or features can property managers leverage to enforce house rules and prevent unauthorized activities? So from here, obviously, Hostify doesn't have the resources or the focus on what Minut, Stayfi, and RemoteLock has, but obviously through integrations that we have, or for example, the integrations that we have with the OTAs, such as Airbnb or Booking.com, you can obviously centralize all your house rules to notify your clients, the platforms, through the messages, also with the connection with Minut, RemoteLock, Stayfi, to through them as well send all this kind of information. And on a follow-up question on that she just did, how can Hostify help me to verify my guest identity? Of course, we have a check-in form as well that you can request all the information from the client to pass you, the passport, ID, and send you the screen or a picture that it can help you to identify it. No. Another one from Maria F. How can Stayfi help me control the occupancy of my property, Arthur?
Yeah, so with Stayfi, we integrate with just about any PMS, or you can set a static maximum number of guests. What we do is we actually count the unique individuals on the Wi-Fi over a period of time. So not just devices, which I know there's some solutions out there. So with Stayfi, every guest has to log on to the internet with an email to get onto the Wi-Fi. So that way we can count and deduplicate to identify the actual number of folks in a property. And then if that number exceeds the reservation number or the static number that you set, we send you an email alert that will tell you, hey, your current reservation is for 6, but we actually see these 8 individuals on the Wi-Fi. We'll actually provide you the names and emails of all 8 of those folks. And then in our platform, you can actually see the devices those folks have online at that time. So we have a record of all the guests that were in the property during the reservation, as well as alerting you when that count exceeds the current book number or a static number that you set.
Perfect. Thank you, Arthur. Another question from Fatima. This is going to be for Alondra. How many sensors do I need to inform guests about Minut?
So the easy answer is yes. You should notify your guests about Minut. As mentioned before, not only do we recommend that you put it in your property listing on whatever platform you list it on, but certainly you could also put it in your guidebook just as a gentle reminder to people to let them know that you do have a noise monitoring device. And as for how many sensors, it really depends on the type of building that you have. So in the type of property, so let's say, for example, if it's a standard 1-bedroom apartment here in Europe, one sensor is going to be more than enough. Whereas if you have a larger, 5-bedroom property in the south of Florida, you probably will need a few more sensors. So it really depends on what you need, but generally we recommend 1 sensor per common area where people tend to gather. So whether that's indoors or outdoors, it really depends on the property. So we'd highly recommend that you schedule a chat with one of our sales people so that they can tell you a little bit more, depending on your property, how many sensors you would need.
Yeah, and he asked as well if they need to inform to the guest. I guess it's more than Minut, just the technology that you're using, or in case that there is any cameras or anything that it can involve. No, Alondra?
Yes, correct. As mentioned, we really recommend being fully transparent on any of these technologies that you have. And we actually have a great verbiage that you can use. You can just copy and paste it from our site that you can put on your listing to help explain that as well.
Perfect. Question from Frederick for remote, for Jessica again. And this is going to be a funny one for you. Do you have any access to discounts or lock purchases?
Great question. Depends sort of what lock you're looking for. We don't have a blanket discount at this time, but I'd love for you again to chat with one of our account executives on the sales team, and maybe there is something out there for you specifically.
Thank you, Jessica. From Ivy, I think this one is general. As someone who has gone through quite a few unauthorized parties, where we have to send the person to break the party and the police at times, is there a security company that is providing a solution to this critical security problem? Who wants to start? Alondra?
I can take that one, yeah. So it depends on where you are. We do offer this service in some markets. So again, I just encourage you to reach out and let us know which market you're located in and where the property is, and we can let you know if we can offer that service to you.
Perfect. From Rafael, and again for Alondra, what happens if guests attempt to interfere with the sensor?
Actually, you would get a tamper notice. So anytime the sensor is moved, or if essentially to do anything to it, you'd have to move it, and you would be notified if that sensor had been moved from the mounting plate. Also, if you pay attention to the sensor itself, like how it, the measurements it reads, it's sometimes quite obvious if something's not quite right with it. You do start to understand what's normal for each individual property, or what's the normal readings on humidity, temperature, noise, all those things. So if someone's trying to tamper with it, the first sign is that they're trying to move it, and you would receive a notification that it's being moved.
Perfect. And we're going to go through the last question before we end up the webinar. And just to remind you, as you can see here in this last slide, you can contact us if you have more questions, or we will send as well the video on the webinar for anyone that has been participating, or even that they have logged in, but they never managed to see it in live. So from Anna, I think this one is as well quite open. In your experience, what is the best way to protect your properties without paying a huge amount of money?
I can go first. I'd say first is to have a damage waiver system in place, whether that's Superhog or Safely or so many out there, so that you are protected from downside risk. And then obviously of all the products, I would recommend a solution like Minut and Door Access first, like RemoteLock. I think that really covers the essential pieces. And then things like Stayfi and some of the other solutions are kind of additional layers you may want to add. But those are definitely the essential ones in my book.
Yeah, and I would like to add kind of an old-fashioned one is communication, right? So if you do have quite a bit of communication with your guests, no amount of technology can replace, understanding who your guest is and who your ideal guest is that you want to have in each property. So certainly having that communication in place from that moment that the reservation is made, and I'd say even a little bit before that, in making a thorough description of which amenities your properties offer. That's going to be key to help ensure that you're attracting the right kind of people for your properties that you want to have there, that you want to host there. And it's a lot easier to communicate with people and ask them questions if you've been communicating with them from the start than if you haven't communicated with them at all. So I'd say certainly communication is a really great place to start.
Perfect. So I would like to thank everyone for attending today, especially you, Alondra, Arthur, Jessica. It's been amazing to have you all. I think it's been a really interesting webinar. I think now the people it's a bit more cautious about everything. And as I mentioned again, we have all the emails here, all the information that you may require. Feel free to ask for any questions, send us an email. I'll be back to you. Thank you, everyone. Unless anyone wants to add anything. All right. Thank you,
Yeah,
guys.
thanks for having us.